Hey guys, and so in today's lesson we're going to learn how to read the notes on the staff in both treble clef and also bass clef. In guitar we use the treble clef, so the treble clef looks like this. The treble clef wraps around the G note. It's also known as a G clef, but basically treble clef looks like that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add our notes going up on all the lines and also on the spaces. So if you start from the first line, we have E. So the first line in treble clef is E. Then we're going to skip it and do G, B, D, and F. So you might notice that this is every other letter of the alphabet. E, we're skipping over F, we're going to G, we're skipping over A, then we're going to B, skipping over C, going to D, skipping over E, going to F. Okay, so every other letter of the alphabet. Another way that we memorize this is every good boy does fine, or every good bird does fly. So if you think of a phrase like that, you can use that to help find the notes quicker until you have them memorized where they are. Now if we look at the notes on the spaces, it spells out the word face. So this would be F, then we have A, C, and E. So face, F-A-C-E. So those are all the letters or notes that we haven't played in between the lines. So if you look here, it goes up the alphabet, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So if you go from line to space, then it's just the alphabet. If we think about it, so E, if we were to draw a note down here, so this would be an E because it's on the bottom line. All right? Okay, so these are the basic notes in treble clef. If we were to keep going further, we have what we call ledger lines. So up here, well, after F you would have G, so this would be A up here. Or if you were to think in between, you would have a G, F, G, A, and it would keep going. If you were to go, this would be B above the line, and then if you had two lines up here, you'd have C, but it just keeps going. So on guitar, it goes down the same direction, so you would just go back. So like if there was a note before this, it would be D. So if you had a note down here below E, this would be D, because it's the next letter down on the alphabet. So this would be D right here, right? If this is E. And then if we went to one ledger line down here, we would have a C, okay? And so on. Two ledger lines down would be A. So the lowest note on the guitar, actually, is what we call E below 3. So on the guitar, if I have 3 lines, this is going to be the low E on the guitar, the lowest string that you play, the lowest note on the guitar. Basically meaning the 6th string open is going to be this note right here. And if you're playing bass guitar or an instrument that plays in bass clef, it's going to look like this. So you have the clef up here, which is the bass clef. You'll also notice that the clef goes around the F note. Okay, so the notes are going to be in the same order as in treble clef. However, we're going to start from a different note. So instead of thinking every good boy does fine, we're going to start with good boys do fine always. Now you can think of a different phrase than that, but that's a very common phrase that a lot of us learn in the beginning. So you just think good boys do fine always. Good boys do fine always. Now if you're thinking of the notes on the spaces, it's going to be ace, G. So ace, and then G after that. And the same thing goes with the ledger lines. Here you have a C, and there'd be a B in between, A, B, C, okay? So and then, after you go from C to here, if you were to go to D, now once you get past this D up here, the next note would be E, which is the first line of treble clef. So if you play piano or an instrument that plays in both clefs, you'll see the bass clef is lower, and the treble clef, it would be right up above it up here. So you'd have a space in between, and that's why they call this middle C. It's the middle line between the two clefs. And if you have treble clef on top, bass clef on the bottom, they connect them together and it's called the grand staff. So if you play piano, generally the left hand's going to play the bass clef and the right hand's going to play treble clef. Kind of like that. But again, for guitar and bass, we separate the two usually. So usually on bass guitar, we're going to read in bass clef, and then on a regular guitar, we're going to read in treble clef. So I definitely recommend using musical flashcards or an app in the beginning to help quiz you on what the notes are in either clef, especially the clef of the instrument that you're playing. If it's piano, then you need to know both equally, but on guitar, we really need to know treble clef really well. But again, it's really beneficial to know both of them because if you're going to play a different instrument, then you can translate what those notes are. So if you're a guitarist that usually reads a treble clef, and then you happen to play bass on something, that way you can pretty much know what you're doing. And even if we're still learning about how to read the notes on our particular instrument in the beginning, say we're using guitar tabs and playing guitar, they still have the notes written above the tab. So you want to know and correlate what that note is and start to incorporate that in your knowledge. And I think learning everything at the same time, like on a slow but steady pace, is really important, because then you can still understand what the notes are and then also be able to read the tab, or vice versa. Okay guys, so in our next video we're going to talk more about scales and harmony and how that correlates with chords. So we're going to harmonize a major scale, and we're also going to harmonize a minor scale, okay? And we're going to learn what chords fit into those scales.